next is Mobin.
All right. So there is a nice group of people here. I would recommend everyone, if you could find a seat, it would be more comfortable if you were sitting right now. I have a few minutes. I'm not going to take too much time. I know we all have, I don't know what schedule is tomorrow. It's Wednesday, so something with HD. So exactly. So it's 9 a.m. We could sleep in a little bit, but please get comfortable. I'm not going to take too long, but I will ask you one thing. This will only work if you please close your eyes. Now, before you do that, you, many of you, unfortunately, I don't know everyone very well. Okay, I kind of sit in the corner of the room. I don't get a chance to talk to everybody. So my name is Mobin. I went to Rutgers Newark, and I don't have the gift of musical talent or singing, but I have been blessed with some ability to control words. So I want to use that today to share my experience studying recently. And it's a story, and I want to share that. So in order to do that, I know in the past I've asked you guys to close your eyes for something that Dr. Giuliano made us do, which is fine. No shame in that. It was a great exercise, and but that was really not prepared. That was me walking up and trying to figure out what I was going to say. This one is a little more prepared, and I hope you guys can follow along and bear with me. So please, at this time, please close your eyes. You will hear some auditory elements to this. If we can keep the background sounds to as much of a minimum as possible to reduce breaking the immersion, whatever happens, you're going to hear me talk, you're going to hear sounds, just keep them closed, and I promise you, we'll get through it together. Some parts may be a little heavy, some parts may be a little light, so just bear with me together. So now, everyone please close your eyes and just try to focus on the sound of my voice. So, we all study for med school for many, many hours. And in order to study, we need to find a quiet, nice, or at least a place with a nice ambiance. There's this cafe that I like to study at, and there was a new one that opened up, and I said, why don't I try that one? Seems to be a little bit of a bustle going on inside. So I see this cafe. It's a bright, sunny day. There's clouds in the sky. I have a pep in my step, and I'm ready to study for our exams. And I have my gear, I have my backpack, my laptop, my 500 electronics to put them in an outlet, and I go into this cafe, and lo and behold, it's nice. It has a very, very nice ambiance. There's good lighting from the windows. There's beautiful walls. They're colored white with a little splash of red. The tiles and the furniture and the tables are all black, and there's nice plants and fauna spread around the cafe. So I'm like, I can handle this. What I did notice was that it was a little crowded. So I said, you know what? I can bear with this. I have very nice noise-canceling headphones. But unfortunately, it was so crowded that I couldn't really find a seat to sit at by myself. But I did find a table for two that was next to an outlet, which, as you know, is mandatory as a med student because you have 400 electronics to plug in while you study. So I found that table, and I sat down, and there was already a man sitting on there. And this man and me were both sharing, and I was like, is anyone sitting here? And he said, no. And he gave me a nice, genial smile. And he was, just to describe him, if you can picture him, he was wearing, a white shirt, but he was very broad-shouldered. And he was a large man, looked like he worked out, very in shape, very friendly, though. Very nice smile. You felt the warmth coming from him. So I felt okay and I felt comfortable, so I sat down and I said, all right, I'm going to study. And I noticed that he had a little ID card that said physician. And I said, whoa, he's a physician. In any case, I start studying. I pull out my laptop, pull out my notes, I put on my headphones, but there's this incessant buzzing from the crowd that's in the cafe. And I keep hearing it, and it gets a little louder that it's penetrating my noise-canceling headphones. And it's really bothering me. I'm like, why are you guys disturbing me? Don't you know I have to study? So, and I try to look around to see if people are going to quiet down, but it seems like it's gotten louder. And when I turn back to my table, I see that the gentleman, the physician, who's sitting in front of me, he's just looking at me, and he's smiling. So then I ask him, can I help you? And he's very friendly. He says he, takes my New Jersey rudeness into, stride, and he says, yeah, I just wanted to know what you're doing. I told him, I'm a medical student. I need to study. So I came here to study. And he said, that's very interesting. I'm a doctor. And I was like, no way, that's so cool. And I started talking to him about what kind of physician he is and stuff. And he said he's the chief of orthopedics. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And he said, yeah. And he was telling me about his cases. Then we started talking about working out. He told me how he swims every other day about for 3 hours at a time. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. He runs, he lifts. And I was like, so we're clicking. And I was starting to forget studying. But then I remembered, like, I got to study. And I was like, all right, I got to go back to studying. So if you don't mind, I'm going to put my headphones on. And I put my headphones back on. And he's still looking at me. And I hear his voice through the headphones. Again, the noise canceling part doesn't work. And he says, don't you know who I am, Mobin? And I get a little worried. And I was like, how does he know my name? And he looks a little familiar, but I don't know who this man is. So I slowly take off my headphones and I say, do I know you? Who are you? And he tells me that he's the chief of orthopedics of this hospital called the Healing Hospital. And unfortunately, his hospital had been burned down. And he had no job. And he was happy. He was like, okay, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. But some people came and they hurt him. They hurt his colleagues. They hurt his patients. And he was telling me the story, and I said, there was a sinking feeling in my stomach. And I asked him, what is your name? He told me his name was Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh. He was the chief of orthopedics department of Al-Shifa Hospital in Palestine, in Gaza. He told me he died, he was killed in December when everyone was celebrating the holidays. He asked me, what did I do for my winter break? And I couldn't answer him because what does it matter? When he told me about the tortures that he faced in prison for being a doctor, when he told me how his residents who were in the cafe with us talking and laughing were zip-tied and buried in mass graves that were found by the UN. He told me, Mobin, you've read about this article. You know what happened. Why are you so focused on studying so much? I had a lot of trouble listening to what he was saying, and I was trying to ignore him, to be honest. I'm not perfect, so I said, please, I need to study. I just need to study and get over this. Please, anything. Can we talk about anything else? And he said, it's okay. You can talk about anything else, but are you sure? I asked him, what do you want from me? What can I do? What can I even do from here? I'm just a medical student. I'm just here to study, and I just want to be a doctor. That's it. And he's like, what do you want from me? He's like, I think that is the wrong question. And after that point, I was like, I don't understand. What do you want from me? And I didn't understand his answer of being the wrong question. So he told me very gently. He said, Mobin, you've seen videos and pictures while you were in SP, while you were in I2C, while you were in TDH, while you were in HA. You saw civilians, you saw 50,000 civilians be killed. Half of them were children. And about 70% were women and children. Many of them were elders. Many of the children were below 7 years old. And he said, you've seen all this. You've seen it every day since. Are you really going to stop talking about us? Are you really going to just focus on studying and just ignore what's happening to us? And I start shaking. I'm shaking, my whole body's shaking, my hand is shaking. And I tell him, like, I just want to go back to school. I think I'm going to go study at school. And he said, God bless you because you have a school. 100% of the universities have been destroyed in Gaza. What is the reason for that? He asked me that, what is the reason? And I was like, why are you asking me? How should I know? I'm not involved with this. And he's like, why are you so worried? You speak Arabic. You pray like I do. You look like me. You should know. And I was like, no, I'm not responsible for this. He's like, did you pay your taxes? You did, right? Then you are responsible. Your money is what destroyed those universities. I got up. I couldn't take it. I left my laptop. I got up and I realized I think I need a breath of fresh air. So I started walking. I started walking towards the exit or the entrance, past all the people. It seemed like there's more people in the cafe now. And as I got closer to the exit, a little hand grabbed out and reached my hand and held on to it. And I had another sinking feeling. And I tried to let go, but it wouldn't let go. And I finally turned to face who it was, but I knew who it was. It was a little girl. She was 6 years old. And she told me, she was laughing, she was smiling at me. And she said, Mobin, where are you going? Are you going to leave us? It's okay if you have to study, but don't leave us. Don't stop talking about us. And I said, I didn't know what to say, to be honest. But I just asked her very point blank, who are you? She said, you should know who I am. You know, your American rapper Macklemore made a song about me. My name is Hind Rajab. I'm 6 years old. I had a family that I was with, that I was evacuating with because of the bombings that are happening in Gaza. And they told me that it was a safe route. But when I was in the car, our car was struck by a missile. And everyone around me except me and my 15-year-old cousin were alive. My father, my aunt, my uncle were all corpses in the car and were stuck there because there's tanks and soldiers everywhere. And I was scared, Mobin. I was crying. I was crying for you. I was crying for everyone. I was crying, why is this happening to me? I'm just a little girl. All I wanted to do was go to school and play with dolls. And I just listened to her, and I kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to say. But she was happy. She was shaking my hand, and she was speaking with a giddiness that only a 6-year-old can have. And she shoved in my face. She shoved her phone. And she said, here, listen to this, listen to this. And I was like, no, I don't want to listen. And she's like, no, listen, listen. It's the last phone call that my 15-year-old cousin made. Please, you have to listen.
الو الو مرحبا عمو انتوا مش عايزين تدخلوا علينا الو مرحبا ايوه بتدخلوا علينا الدبابه جنبك انتوا متخبيين في السياره احنا جنبينا الدبابه انتوا جوا السياره الو الو
Hind Rajab, she told me that she saw an ambulance coming towards her to help her. But unfortunately, the ambulance was struck by a targeted missile. And the ambulance and everyone in it was killed. And she saw that from her car. And eventually what you heard was the end of Hind Rajab. So Hind kept holding on to my hand, and I, at this point, was broken. And I realized alongside her in the cafe were 15,000 other children in the same position. Because we aren't speaking up, and that's what really hurt the most. I realized the buzzing that I was hearing in the cafe was everyone just saying my name and not intimidating me or shaming me into speaking up or to sharing information or to educating our friends, our families, and to having discussions with people we agree with or disagree with. They were encouraging me, and that buzzing was them saying my name, saying, Mobin, please remember us. Remember us. Remember the people of Sudan. Remember the people of Yemen. Remember your own neighbors in America who don't have a home. There's so many people who are suffering right now. Why are you spending time day and night, only on Netflix or only on things that at the end of the day don't really matter after hearing what happened to Hind Rajab? I decided to leave the cafe at that point, but I realized the question I asked Dr. Adnan, I realized why it was the wrong question. I realized the question shouldn't be, what can I do for you? Or what do you expect from me? Or what do you want from me? Because that comes from a place of arrogance. We have everything in the world. We have a house, we wake up in a bed, we have families and support systems, we have food and water, we have everything. We live like royalty. The question that should be asked, what gives me the right to stay silent when my brothers and sisters all across the world, in humanity, are suffering like that? How dare I stay silent? How dare I ignore the oath of a physician and stay silent? If I may lose my job or my career or face any repercussions, what does it matter when they're losing their lives? When they found healthcare workers, 700 people, of them many healthcare workers and many children, zip-tied and shot in the head in mass graves in front of the Ashifa hospital complex, where the chief of orthopedic surgeon was Dr. Adnan. So I walked out the cafe, realizing that there's work to be done, and that studying is one part of being a physician. But the real part was all the people who were behind me, walking with me, and helping me understand what to do and what not to do, and how best to help each other as humanity. So I left with my stuff, and with all the martyrs behind me, I left the Cafe of Martyrs as a different person. Free Palestine, end the genocide, end the occupation. Thank you.